Well, here we are. Recording in progress.
Unharnessed.
Unharnessed. Yeah,
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. It
I
feels
had to
right.
get I had to like feel into it a little bit and like read about it, listen to that song, and I do. I think I like Untethered. I've used that quite a bit. Unbridled sounds like even more like horsey. Not that that's bad, but I like Unharnessed. So we're yeah, so I don't even know how to intro this, but Gabby and I are launching a new show, a new experience where we come on and we talk about what's coming up, um, our journeys, our lived experience, and how that applies to the collective evolution that we're all going through. And hopefully, we will be just vibing and activating each other and y'all. So,
Yes. From a grounded perspective.
yes, from a grounded perspective, not too much of the woo. Yeah, so yeah, the energies seem like intense. And I was looking at I'll always check like the KP index or that girl, a girl in the universe and see. And I think we were in this that guy I follow, what's his name? Suspicious Observers.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's good. He's very he's a doomsday guy, so I don't like take all of that to heart too much, but
right.
he
Yeah.
definitely gets the info. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying he has really good data though.
Good data. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, it sounds like a whole bunch of stuff popped off. And I know yesterday my daughter's group home, they lost their internet for a while. And that's like, I guess, electrical disturbances and
Oh, wow.
fires and stuff
Do you think
happening.
from the solar flares?
I don't know if that was exactly why, but it seemed pretty random that it would just, yeah, it could have been other things, but it seemed like it was in the time frame that was happening. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that energy right now, I feel like I was telling you earlier, like energy's being pulled out of my body, and
Wow.
like get stuck. And then the universe guides me to different things like light language or like Robbie's her whatever that was, she did like the light language thing, like that really assisted me in moving it through. Because earlier I felt like this density so heavy and just drained, tired. And as soon as I got done with that, it's like this release. Like like there was this weight lifted and
Really?
light came into the room. Like, and I know it was just the sun coming out a little bit, but my room filled with light. So it's just like these amazing things are happening, and I know it's not just me that these things are happening to.
No, yeah, that's really awesome. I need to re-listen to that. Her sharings, her transmissions have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess my experience with that was like when I go out running or and I go into the woods, and if I put my hands on a tree or something, I can feel, and it's almost like I don't have the dramatic, not that that's dramatic, but I don't feel like the energy draining out of me so much. It's just like I feel so much lighter. So I guess something leaves, you
Yeah.
know? And it's almost like I don't even realize it till like a few minutes later. Like I'll be like, huh, like my whole thought process has shifted and like, yeah, it's wild.
Hmm. And I think being out here in the middle of nature now where I live it's so much easier to process and to move
Really.
these out. Yeah, because where I was at, it was so dense and heavy, and I'm in the middle of all these energies in the middle of the city where
Yeah.
there's 5G, and you could feel it as soon as you like drive out of the city, like you just feel like this weight lifted. And then while I'm driving back into it to go to work, just gets heavier and heavier. And then walking into work, it's even more heavy because there's so many people, so many energies, and I'm feeling everyone, and I'm getting so much more sensitive to these things, and it's getting harder and harder for me to be around. But
Yeah, I hear you. In fact, I don't know. I was going to say, what is your process for going into work and stuff? I mean, I know it's not like we need protection per se, but if it was me, I'd probably be doing a whole hell of a lot of praying
yeah,
going in.
yeah. Well,
It's,
on my way to work, I ground and I like set my mind for it. But I kind of like I invoke, the archangels and the guidance and kind of put a bubble around myself when I go in there. But also like I have headphones in all night. So
you
I'm kind of like in my own energy, so that helps a lot. It's a
that
little harder if I don't have my headphones.
they don't mind with the headphones.
No, I'm not supposed to, but I wear a hat. And a lot of people do. Like my supervisors know, but technically I'm not supposed to have headphones on.
That seems silly. I guess
Yeah,
if they just let everybody, then if they just made it an okay thing, then there'd be like just a bunch of
yeah,
fuckery with it,
yeah, people take advantage of it.
but they respect that you're not going to do that. So,
Yeah, well, and I do my job. I'm not,
right.
I'm sure if I wasn't working doing my job, there would be a problem, but I have a lot of integrity, so they trust me with a lot more than they would the average person. Like, especially with my accommodations, like I can go for a half hour and put a heating pad on, and they'll just leave me in a room and trust me that I'll leave in a half hour because they know it's Gabby. That's what they say. They're like, I trust you, you know, sign yourself out.
Yeah,
But
because you wouldn't take advantage of it. You're genuinely using it for what it's supposed to be used for.
exactly. And I'm very big on that too. Like I don't take advantage of it. Like I could do a lot more with those accommodations. Like you have people that sit up front and do nothing all night and they really have nothing wrong with them. They're just lazy and don't want to work. Where here I am
So,
with gods and
wow.
like still working my ass off.
What is it like putting things in boxes? Like, is it assembly line? Like, I don't even know really what you do.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing is I'm just putting the small things, but
Mm,
they want me to do the PA position, which is basically a supervisor's position. But I really I'm rethinking that, seeing what all the stress that they're going through. It'll be a
yeah,
lot less like physical work, which I don't see. It's not a whole lot of physical work that I'm doing. It's just standing. That's the only thing. But the stress is immense with the
I bet.
package, so that's why I'm really looking for other ways to make money because,
Yeah,
and it's Amazon, I'm
the
grateful.
mothership.
Yeah, I'm grateful, have income and stuff, but it's still like this cannot be a long-term thing,
Yeah, the insider information you're getting though from the
right?
code you're getting from that job is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, I
I've
learned so
learned,
much just from you
yeah,
sharing about it. Like,
yeah, I've learned
just
so,
doing a shift that long with such, I guess it sounds to me like repetitive.
yeah. And they're doing experiments.
Really?
Like I'm like you talk about like the programming with the schools, they do that. Like there's a mascot.
Really?
Yeah, like it's programming and I see it for what it is and I don't participate and I'm kind of like outcasted because of it, but I know I see very clearly what's going on. And there are other people that do too that are like me, but they're not like as awake to it. They just know, yeah, that's not for me. So they kind of stay to themselves. So we kind
Like
of talk to each other.
you mean like the hype, the like team building type stuff, or
Right.
is that
Yeah. Team building, building up the ego to get you to work harder, you know, like I see it for what it is, and like, yeah, I'm gonna do my job and I'm gonna do the best I can,
You
but
don't
I'm
need
not
that shit.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's so externally driven.
yeah,
I
but
know
I think
John works for he's a programmer and he works for a subsidiary of the VA and they have all these terms and like
yeah,
that they come up with and just these like catchphrases and he's
their
just
own
like
language.
eye
Yeah,
roll like he's in his 50s, he's been doing this, he's like, oh my God, I can't even believe that, we sit there and we talk about like, but yeah, he just does his job. It's like all it's same thing. It's like all these things they want to add on to it to like capture your data
yeah.
and
They have people wearing these RF sensor, like you, if you're a supervisor, you have to wear this tracking thing.
really,
And they, yeah, and then they track your every move because you're wearing a badge that has a tracker in it.
holy crap.
And like I understand to a certain extent
Yeah.
why they want to do that because they want to make sure you're doing your job and not just milking a clock, and there's a rate, you're being tracked how many packages you're putting out because you have to scan a thing, and it's messed up, but like at the same time, like I get it, like you want to make
Yeah.
sure, and I see people don't want to work, they just want to stand around and do nothing, and they'll do as little as possible because that's just the work ethic of people today,
Yeah.
like especially the young people. So you have like the older people who are doing their job, and then the young people don't want to do anything.
Wow.
But I've really gotten like an insider, like you were saying, an insider's look at people. Like I haven't worked for like 7 years or something like that, like not a real job like that since I
Hmm.
was, and I've only been back working for a year, and like I completely, you know, it's completely different than it used to be. Like people are just different. It's a new generation is in, you know.
Yeah. Like we've kind of enabled this it's not really, I mean, I hate to say it's not denying personal responsibility, but collectively we've enabled this type of, I don't know, that generation. It's and
Yeah.
I see it like I can't put my finger on. I mean, I've thought through kind of the whys and whatnot because I see it some with my daughter. Not that she doesn't want to work, but just they've been fed a lot of like psychological stuff to almost to their detriment, I guess, and
And
been
it's
taught.
like the simple things, like these simple jobs, like doing the dishes, like it's like cutting wood, chopping wood, and carrying water. Like the simple things bring us into ourselves, and they're like letting these things go, and they don't want to do it. They want robots to come in and do it for them. And that's like part of the program, I feel. You know what I mean? The simple,
Absolutely.
like, and I've been watching this happen. Like I've been thinking about this. I've been seeing it happen for years. And I really couldn't put my finger on it back then. I just knew like what is wrong with this new generation? Like why don't they want to work? Like why don't they know anything? Why do they not have common sense? And it's because they've been programmed that way. The school systems, the technology, the video games, TV,
I do
mindset.
know. I do. I see it. It's like such a disconnection. Like I've seen it with my daughter in the group home. I mean, she's got a lot of other stuff going on, but that fragmentation
Yeah.
from the constant input and getting directives from so many different places that don't really like intermesh. So for someone that's got, other challenges, I see it as like it's almost impossible to find your core to get to your center and just, like I think the older generations have more of that ability. They're not, they haven't been subject to the conditioning. But yeah, man, what a like inside track you have, despite
Yeah.
it being really hard because
And
working
just
at night and
so many different age groups. So I'm interfacing with so many
Right.
different people and I'm activating them too. Like I'm able to say just the simplest thing to get them thinking about things because they're
Like
going to
what?
write
Give me
questions.
an example.
Just like the other night, this guy's like, I'm tired of this job. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, I got to like say like there's something else, like be your own boss. So now I've sent him information, Billy Carson's information about financial freedom and there's so many different instances I've been able to like have conversations with people about stuff like that, and like some of them, they're just like, yeah, this bitch is crazy. But I'm sure down the line, something's gonna happen and that seed's gonna blossom into something and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's what that crazy girl was talking about. Maybe she wasn't so crazy.
Yeah, just that you're willing to take the risk. Like
Yeah,
I would hope that I would be now, but I know I've been in jobs and stuff like that. Not exactly like you're in, but where like I've held back.
yeah.
Like I've seen what you're seeing and like I've
And I
had those opportunities and I've not had the inner mojo or fortitude to really say much.
it's
So
very, very tricky. Like I'm careful about what I say, especially like with the trans stuff. And that's another thing I would like to maybe touch on today.
absolutely.
But like there's a lot of that going on and there's a lot of like there's the people that and it's not so many people here that are actually transitioning like there was in Chicago Amazon because there was like probably 25% of Amazon was transgender.
Wow.
Yeah, they're huge. They have a whole wall dedicated to like trans.
Holy crap.
Yeah, like I was blown away when I got there and I see this wall and it's like hidden from the public. Like you see it if you're in there, but like it's so normalized. And I don't know if you watched that interview I sent you, how it's becoming like a new religion, how transgenderism is like holy and they're considering it's like a new religion, basically.
They have
And
to make it that way. They have to make it like a pillar
exactly,
for that's the way I feel. Like I see it with my daughter, um, one of my other daughters that like I was listening to something and when we're in the car and stuff, my son and I, we can listen to anything. He doesn't care what I have on. He'll get something from it or he'll put his headphones on. But when she's in the car, I'm really aware that those are like hot button issues for her. And so like I could see her recoil, like when this guy was just bringing up like just he said the word transgender in like a negative light, and like I could feel her energy, like just like like almost like in my generation it would have been more of like a blasphemous way of saying something about Jesus Christ, or
right? Yeah.
it was like to that level. Like I felt that energy around it. Like, oh, I can't even I'm just gonna change it because I don't want to feel like I'm forcing her to listen to something like that.
Right. Yeah, and see, that's how I am at work. Like, I'm still like, if you're identifying yourself as a female and you're clearly a male, I'm not going to be rude and be like argumentative, but I'm still not going to affirm your delusion to the point where, you know what I mean? So I just kind of keep my distance.
Yep,
And because of that, like, there's a couple people there that I've really pissed off.
I bet.
Because, like, I don't outwardly say I don't agree with you to these people, but they probe and ask you certain questions, to see where you stand.
Sure, because it's their you're like questioning their reality in some
Right.
ways, and they feel
And I really
destabilized.
and I really didn't even question anything. I just am not with it, clearly. And the thing about it is when I have my hat on, I look more like a dude than they do. And I think that kind of like made them jealous, but I'm not trying to look like a dude. I just want to wear my headphones, you
Yep.
know? But like they thought I was like transgender, and a lot of people do. And I get that projected at me, but I'm not transgender. I just have a very like athletic build, you
Same.
know.
Yeah. People do. Yeah. Yeah, very much that way. I don't try to look super feminine ever.
Right. And that's okay. And like these people, this person is clearly a female, like doing the head bob, you know what I mean? Like, so I said she, and they were like, "Ugh," and turned their badge around and it said he, him. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I didn't mean to. I was just saying her over there. I was
Like, what do you say? Like, I've thought that. Like, what do you even say? Like, it?
right. Yeah. And I think they'd rather, and it's more of causing that, you know, that division, that causing this drama about it.
Yeah.
And it's an energy, it's like archonic energy feeding off of this. And I'm watching it happen. So then there's this other person who was there at that time. I think I talked to you about this before. And she started talking about Christ and like actual Christ consciousness, like the spirit, and like
Mhm.
dogging
Yeah, you did tell me a little
it
bit.
because this person like started to like go into like how their parents are Christians and they, are so against them. And I'm seeing it as like growing up watching these gay kids be beaten and kicked out of their homes. And but this person is transgender with Christian parents, but still live at home and still is loved by your parents. Like they have no idea what people have gone through. Like there are people that have been raped and beaten by mobs of dudes for just literally just being a dyke. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and
there's
then,
movies about that. I've
right.
watched some of them.
Yeah. Like, and it's just, it's infuriating to me, but I still have like this compassion and
Hmm.
I'm still in my heart with it because I understand it's all coming from trauma and they're being used. And there's an essence of mind control because it's their trauma is being because it's trauma
Yes.
programming. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
I do.
Being played upon.
It's so insidious.
Yes,
It's kind of like the not to because we'll air this some at some point publicly, but the um
we can edit.
the vaccine agenda, it's like they find these ways of using this this almost like, oh, well, you can't question that because that's
Right,
been, it's almost like these sacred cows that we have in our society. And
right.
I have a family member. I have let's see, it would be my cousin, and he was raised as in a Christian family with his total of four siblings, very conservative Christian, and came out as gay. I believe came out as gay, and his family basically kicked him out. I mean, he is not spoken about. He's like off the family radar. Like no one knows where he is just because of that. Like, and these are like people that I grew up around, like my aunt and uncle, like super loving, like overall super loving, still very in the programming of Christianity, conservative Christianity. So I always saw that. And my other cousins and I, we used to joke about who was gonna, of all our cousins, like who was gonna be the rebel and who was gonna like take the fall of these four boys, like which one was gonna go down. And there was this one guy, and yeah, he's out of the he's like what
Complete.
happened to Matthew? Like everybody's talking about it kind of behind the scenes, but it was so profound to me just um as thinking of his parents, how they could completely disown their own child,
Yeah,
But I also get it in some ways, because my own son won't speak to me. And so and it's not because of a transgender issue, but it's other like key issues that have so divided us that
yeah.
our souls get twisted.
Well, and that right there goes to show like how, because that religion is a program.
Yeah,
There have been more people killed in the name of religion than anything,
I know.
So, and this is another level. It's just like religion. You're being given this religion, and these people have no faith because they're completely against God. So now they completely go against because they're against Christianity. They just write off all spirituality. Like
So
it's
that's insidious too, though, because
right.
not only are they stripping them of any kind of rational way of understanding what their feelings are based on the trauma programming, but taking them away from any opportunity to really open to spirit, even if it's, whoops, frozen.
No, you're good now.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this person in this interview was explaining how the grooming process works and how they're catching these young people. A lot of them have mental disabilities. Like a lot of them are either autistic or they're severely depressed, they're the outcasts, and they catch them at these vulnerable points, feed them these delusions, and then they just work on separating the mind from the body, telling them like they're not their body, which is true to a certain extent,
right.
but they're going to the extent of having them dissociate from the body. So now, and then when you put someone on hormones like that, like it makes you more promiscuous because a female on testosterone, you become more promiscuous, or
Oh,
a
yeah.
estrogen. But then it gets to a point where these people become asexual after they're on these hormones or, and hormone blockers, and their bodies are in a child state for the rest of their life. So in a way, it's fulfilling these pedophile, um,
Right.
what is it called? Fantasies.
Like
Like,
a pure or a prepu prepubescent type.
yeah, it keeping them and looking like children. And then they're it's a fetish. There are fetish sites. And some of these things, like it literally leads back to fetish.
Really.
Yeah, like
Wow.
literally, like I'll find the data for that and show you.
No, it's not, I completely believe you. I mean, I know that the whole fetishism thing has become more pronounced.
Yeah. And spiritually, this is all going back to this new world order and this creating this false sphere on the earth through the electromagnetic grid, like electricity, the dying light, you know, it all ties together.
That makes so much sense. I mean, it's been building, like you can see them like putting down the little bricks of the building over these last years, like many years, not just, before I probably was like, I don't even know how far back it goes, and it's
Oh,
not like, what?
a long time.
A long
It,
time.
it's just like all like we're seeing it now
Yeah.
and we're all awake. So we're like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
and some people are just accepting it as normal. Oh, that's another thing, going along with it. But then there's other people that are like, no, this is not right. This is this is not normal. And I feel like at work, that's kind of what I'm doing is I'm like affirming, like, no, you're correct. This is not right. This is not true. Like, I'm the one to stand up and say no. And I really don't care what people think of me. I don't want my work life to be hard, obviously. So I'm
Yeah.
not sit here and be confrontational. I have this way of doing things where I do it from my heart and from unconditional love. So it's very hard for someone to be very confrontational with me. Like it pisses them off, but like logically they can't be confrontational with me because I'm not being argumentative. I'm just
Beautiful.
standing there in my light and my power and not accepting it. And it's like, so I'm not really doing anything wrong, but at the
Right.
same time, it's like it's not allowing the delusion.
I'm sure that makes some people very uncomfortable.
It makes a lot of people uncomfortable and it makes for like works hard sometimes, but it's getting better. People are really seeing me for who I am and not projecting their stuff at me because I'm being more loud and open and speaking up for myself. And that's a big thing. That's a big lesson I've learned in the past few months is like really how to speak up for myself, opening up my or my throat chakra, which has been like I've closed it, silenced myself for so long, you know, to help other people.
That's it's not incredible, but well, it is incredible, but I don't want to use too many extreme words, but that's great. That's like it reminds me a little bit of like my dad. He was in marketing. And he started as the years went by, he was so disillusioned by the business world, but he would be in these job situations and just like hold his light. And he would end up a lot of times getting, and he wasn't like confrontational like you're talking about. He was just always for the underdog. Like he would come
Mm.
and he would tell me about like, oh, these women that I'm working with in the office are being really, I can't tolerate the way that they're being treated and just like taking these risks almost and standing up for the underdog and basically losing his jobs. And it was really hard for our family because you know, he was the breadwinner and he was always changing jobs. But I think a lot of it was really him not tolerating
Yeah,
the shadow.
yeah,
And
for
even
sure.
though it was, my mom, it drove my mom nuts. And I know that there's probably situations that weren't as clear cut as he made them. I'm sure some of his own energy was getting, his own unintegrated stuff was getting involved with some of it. But overall, it was a big example to me. First of all, I remember him saying, like, the business world, Jill, it's just so corrupt. He's like, I just can't, I can barely even hardly be in it. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
this is just sexuality issues, basically. Well, that's how it started.
like if you think about like how much that's affected your point of view.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful for those lessons.
I
And
bet.
it's funny because like I saw him as more negative until kind of I don't know. It's like part of me was like I know my dad is doing like I felt so much love for him and he had so much unconditional love around him. But also I could see how, we kind of had to suffer in some ways based on his decision making. But looking back, like I see Jaden. There's no I completely am right with him. I mean, because that stuff is gold for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep doing it, Gabby. It's like
There's been a lot of instances like my dad would call stuff out too.
Woody,
It's always the rebel, stick up for the underdog. He
the
would tell me
underdog. Yep.
he would tell me stories about kids being bullied. And my dad's always been like a muscle guy, like macho man,
Yeah,
but he's always, he's just got a big heart. So like I think that really helped mold me in the person I am today.
for sure. For sure. Yeah. I think even, oh, did it freeze? Even with, just, yeah, it wasn't like a big deal with it wasn't like he was coming home and preaching this stuff. It was just like, oh, yeah, it was subtle,
Yeah, his actions.
his actions. Yeah. That's really wild. But yeah, that the whole transgender thing is very, I had another thought about it when you were talking about how also, the whole like, you want to have compassion, almost like they guilt you into feeling like you can't be compassionate about, or you've got to be compassionate about it. Like it's almost militarized. Like
Yeah.
we've got to accept this because otherwise did he want to come on and say something?
No, no.
No, not this time, but we'll get him on.
Yes.
Yes. It's very interested. Yeah.
But yeah.
Just that you're guilted if you're not like
Going along.
supporting it almost.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed with a lot of people around there. They're afraid of me when they think I'm
I bet.
trans. And then there are other people, like there are actual transgender people. Like I accidentally called it's a guy to a girl. I accidentally said man, because that's what I say. What's up, man? You know what I mean? Like, and I say
Yeah,
that to girls too, but they didn't make a big deal out of it because they're actually trans, you know? So they're not saying they're making it because it's their shadow comes up because they're the one questioning it, not anyone else. So it like It's, you know how, see how that
It's
works?
it's
Like,
all in them. It's
yeah.
they're unintegrated stuff that they're
Yeah, so if somebody calls them the wrong gender, then they're projecting it out like their trauma, their own insecurities, they're projecting out on other people. But, somebody who's actually trans is not going to sit there and make a big deal like that, you
because they're
know?
secure in who they
Right.
are.
Now, if somebody's being mean and intentionally calling you by the wrong gender, to be an
To be
asshole, that's a
cruel.
story. But like, it's just so crazy what people are being asked to accept, you know, and how far it's gone and how like beyond crazy the mind control has gotten, because that's what it is like literal mind control.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even believe it sometimes when I see that, yeah, that kind of thing. Um, and it's in all areas, I think, of our society where, like, I can share the example of my son's program at his disability, um, like a hub, the ARC, and how
Mm-hmm.
they brought back masks in the last few weeks. And now this is a population that really can't speak for themselves. So, but it's held up as an example. Oh, well, we're protecting these people that have disabilities. Well, basically, in my opinion, they've been hobbled. I
Right.
mean, every time I see somebody with like, and I'm not saying complete everybody with autism, but a lot of the disabilities have been exacerbated by our medical interventions.
Yeah.
So it's like we've created this whole situation, but they're the ones and then they've been freaking hobbled by the medical stuff. Whether you want to say that's if you I mean, it's so clear to me um that that's kind of what's happening is the escalation of the vaccine that the kids get now, like in the 70s, they get like 70 some before they're 5, and you can't tell me that doesn't impact, especially people that already have like some kind of a genetic or some kind of a weakness in their they
I
come in
know.
with that in their genome, and then they're putting all this. I don't understand. Like, to me, I'm at the point where, like, please explain to me how they're not being impacted, even if it's not as extreme as like a lot of people say, how they're not even being impacted at all, and how we're unwilling to look at that at all. Like, I'm kicked out of like these disability communities because I've raised this issue. I
Really?
mean, they shut you down right away. They do because everything that they're doing in these nonprofits and stuff is built around um keeping this thing going, like creating the patients and
See,
it's
there's
all like good people, they're trying to help. They're trying to help, but they get like I think it's very similar in some ways to the transgender stuff. They get so wrapped up in it that they can't see it.
yeah, and it's like pockets of the same programming, but it's
Pockets.
the thing. It's like with the addiction, with the recovery community,
Yeah, good
fentanyl.
example.
Like this fentanyl, we have thousands of people in a day that are dying, like if not more now. And we're not talking about addicts either. We're talking about kids who stumble across it or, in a pan because their parent was cooking it up, or kids who got it in a vape because it's being tainted. Everything's tainted with fentanyl these days. So you got 15-year-old kids trying pot for the first time that has fentanyl on it and they're dying.
Wow.
And this is culling the herd. Like they're
Culling the herd. Yep.
population control, like sterilizing everyone and
God
culling the
damn.
herd and dumbing people down, getting people to a state where they're more controllable, traumatizing people. Like this is their introduction to the new world order, you know?
Oh yeah, so much. And yeah, it's like I can see the robotic element coming in where we're
Yeah.
disconnected from our spirit. And it's like the frog in the frying pan, I guess.
Yes.
I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those like people I have put on pedestals and respected just can't that's all come down in the throughout the COVID thing. Like a lot of the doctors and people that I esteemed and would think that would be helpful and this thing around finding a cure and whatnot. Like we're all striving to find a cure for this or that, but that's a bunch of hooey.
Oh,
Nobody's finding any cures.
I was gonna say when you were talking earlier, I really like with all the experimentation that's going on, all the chemicals and everything that's happening, causing this genetic manipulation in people. I like there are so many people with autism now.
Oh, it's like, yeah, there's, I mean, I can send you like these, like one, it went from like one in, I don't know how many to like one in, like now it's like down to like one in 32 that have autism diagnosis now. And it's going to be, I've heard predictions, whoops,
Yeah, you're good now. But what did you
it,
say? You can send me.
um, it's got the incidence of autism has gone from like one in, I don't know, 1,000 down to like one in 32 now, or maybe even less. And the prediction is it's going to be like one in three. Now tell me that that's not that we're
That is
all just going to be like, oh well. And I remember when like my kids when I was first like in these groups and stuff, and before I had any of this awareness, everybody was like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And it's all like there was never any like real answer that I felt comfortable with. It was so vague.
right.
And I can say I started looking at like the genetics in our own family where my kid's father has the same condition and then his father had it. Now they both um first of all they didn't get the 80,000 medical interventions and vaccines, and they never had the exacerbation of the condition. um, like they don't have to go get MRIs all the time, or they didn't have all the early medications. It's like when someone is born with a genetic condition, like now right away they start with all that stuff. Like so I've seen it like from three generations where it's been just profound to me how much it's been really exacerbated.
Yeah. So you're
Got it,
saying
Jack. Yeah,
that
just
so
Jack, I'm in
you're
the middle of an interview, honey. Okay. Okay.
so you're saying that
I'm
the
saying that
shot,
like yeah, like my ex and his dad, they didn't get all the because they were born like the
right,
1971, and his dad was probably the 30s. They didn't have all that, but they had the same diagnosis.
right,
So I'm like, what the hell happened? You know?
right. Yeah,
And my
that's
thought was when I was having them, like, okay, well, the medical system's so much better now. They have much better treatments that, we can do this and they're going to be okay. Well, I mean, and they are okay to a certain degree, but much more impacted than the previous generations. But no one wants to look at that.
right.
Like every article I see where they're doing some of these random studies like about this condition they have tuberous sclerosis, I always put in the comments. I go on these like journal articles and I'm like, have you ever considered doing a study on or just stop vaccinating, just stop right now and see. I get really agitated about it. I guess it's so obvious to me. And
Yeah,
I'm
because
sure there's other variables. I can't just say that it's like a straight line, that this happens and then this happens. But
well, yeah, and not just the vaccines, but
right,
like you think
the
about
water, the
yep,
food.
the water, everything has been tainted, the air. So the biggest thing is like detoxing our bodies, like all,
Yes,
every single one of us, because we're breathing in toxic air, we're drinking, even the nutritious organic food I'm eating has stuff in it, because of the process of how we do things now. And everything's been poisoned and people are
yeah.
waking up. So they're even poisoning the organic stuff now and telling you it's organic. So you can't even grow your own food and get away from it because the air and the water, the rainwater, So it's like you really can't get by it. You have to detox to
So
make
true. And that's not something, I mean, I think that a lot of people are catching on to that. And it also requires an element of like it's expensive, it can be expensive. So we're cutting out a bunch of people that can't afford, these regimens. And there's many ways to do it less expensively, but it takes some looking around, some research. It's not your average person isn't going to go figure that out.
right.
And I find that really like a lot of the health freedom communities, there's an assumption that people can just do these things. Like even with the patches that I use, they're expensive. I mean, not everybody can do that. And I've even posted in their groups, like, how are we like not making this more accessible? Because it really is like it's like a white privilege thing in some ways, or just
Well, not white, because like
no, you're right. You're not right.
that's another thing like I was going to talk about with the whole race thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, because we have this idea that we're fed that like white people, and there are a lot of white people that have it a certain way, that are really
No, I
well,
hear you. Keep going. I know what you're. I get this, and I
but
agree
there
in
are
advance.
like a lot of well off black people. You know what I mean? Like, but Karen grew up in the Ninth Ward of Louisiana, the only white person, and you know what I mean? So there are like
There's a
exceptions.
lot of stereotypes around it,
Exactly. And
and
then
they're
there's
using it.
stereotypes about black people too,
Yeah,
or about a Mexican person. Like that goes along with the whole transgender stuff we were talking about earlier.
yeah. No, I'm right with you. I think that that's a buzzword. Like things get labeled as, oh, that's a white supremacist, and I'm like, I don't know whether I've ever seen or met somebody that was like a white supremacist. Like that. Like I think a lot of that stuff is possibly staged that they
Yeah,
show.
I think so. I have seen Confederate flags being here in Florida
True,
for the first time. Like I never saw that in Illinois, you
really.
know. Yeah, but like I have seen Confederate flag, but it wasn't like I don't think it was like what we would think of a white supremacist.
Right.
It was like he looked like a hillbilly
It's
with
the
his
hillbillies.
yeah,
And
like
maybe
he
that's a stereotype too, but I mean, that's coming from a different place than a white supremacist. I mean, yeah.
the white
And
supremacists are the elite.
yeah,
You know what
yep,
I mean? Like,
yep. That's funny because
oh, you're cutting out a little bit. There we go. I think you're good now. Yeah, you're good now.
I wonder why I want to be able to hook it into, let me shut down a few things. Um,
Maybe like hardwire it with your
yes,
e.
and I have a way to do that. Um, I used to have it hooked right up, like there's a switch thing I can pull off and put in. So the next time we do this, I'll do that because that's aggravating AF.
Yeah.
But because then I lose the train of thought. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's another program. Yep. There's so much.
Yes. It's But the beautiful part of it is it's waking people up.
Yeah,
Like it's completely going beyond what they thought it was going to do. Instead of dividing, there are people waking up to it because there are people like you and me who are calling it out and not falling for it, not going. And it's hard at times. It's really fucking hard. But staying true to ourselves and being the light, and letting people know it's okay. No, your intuition is right. This is not okay. You
yeah,
know, this is not true. Like that's really making a huge difference and doing it all from love because love is such a strong frequency. It's stronger than any of it and it's unbeatable, you know?
yeah. And I think a lot of on both sides, and people end up sides. Does there even need to be sides? Like there's only two sides, but being in your heart, you know,
Yeah,
when you are in a place like you in your work. I mean, if you were like all like, you know, tense and not open and just kind of just being you, just going along being you and holding it. I mean, and that takes some real deep inner work, I would
yeah,
say, Gabby,
yeah.
to do
I
it.
surprise myself sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think back, I'm like, I think I've evolved and changed a lot. And if I was in a work situation like that, I would hope I would be able to be better than I used to be. Because I remember so much like just not speaking up, but seeing stuff. So
well, believe me, there are times that like I don't say anything.
I'm sure.
You have to I have to pick my battles
Right.
wisely. I don't want to end up like making my life complete hell at work. So I try to stay in my heart and just, you know, be the light
That's all you can do, really.
and call it out subtly, you know, not cause a big, ordeal with transgender people, which there, like I was saying earlier, there aren't a whole lot of
Uh-oh. No, you
here
froze.
in the conservative state. Like there, did I freeze?
You did for a minute, just first, not even a minute, like 2 seconds.
Yeah, there was a lot more of it going on in Illinois, but
That's interesting. Just a different location,
yeah, well,
different
different politics, different,
politics.
and there, I mean, there's still craziness that happens here, but
It's different craziness than it was
yeah.
probably in Illinois.
Oh yeah, it's completely different. It's a whole different world down here.
I bet.
Like
From the weather to everything.
everything. Yeah. I love it.
Do you?
Love it here. Yeah, like it's different. It's not what I'm used to, but like I'm really happy here. I'm happy with the move. Even though we moved into that place we did, like I wouldn't change it, you know. Like I'm really
No.
grateful for all of it right now.
I'm glad to hear that. And a lot of people wouldn't have handled it quite that way. I mean, because I've been the observer of your experience and yeah, just really like I knew you were gonna be like tested there and watching you go down those roads of self-doubt and come back up and like just the wrestling that you did.
Yeah.
But every time you got the lesson, like every single time. It wasn't like you ever got hard. You didn't get like this like like I these people are bad. I fucking need to get out of here. You like went in and just found the like the beauty and the extraordinary in that situation.
It really showed me to myself like the work I've done.
I
Because
bet.
just a few years ago, like 5 years ago, I would have ended up relapsing. I would have been in that state. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like my last relapse, I had it wasn't even that bad, and I had someone come to the door, and they didn't offer me drugs or anything, but I could tell they were using. So I asked them first off, and it was just pot, but it ended up going, and that's when I had that overdose.
Wow, it was just pot, but it was still that piece of you was not quite integrated yet. So,
Right. So if one of these people came to my door, like in this last place I was living, and I hadn't integrated all that and done that healing, they would have, asked to mow the lawn, and I would have thought, oh, this person does drugs. They'll probably know where to get it. Like I would have had
right.
that thought, like, oh, join them, you know, like, and that was there, like it was still coming in. It's like almost like demons coming up, but
Wow.
healed it, so it just went, like it came and it went. You know what I mean? Instead of like it would come and then it'd be like this obsession.
Like perseveration on it.
And I didn't want to feel and escape, escape, escape. But like really, like it really showed me like how much. I've integrated and healed and how different I am. Like I'm a completely different person today than I was then.
That's huge. So
Yeah.
huge. I mean, I feel like total chills when I think of that whole experience and how like I think spirit put you there. I mean, yes, it was a test and whatnot, but you were it wouldn't have happened if you weren't ready because
No, you're right.
because can you imagine how off the rails I would have gone? Everything would have been blown apart for you guys.
Yeah.
And it could have been, I mean, it would have been so easy.
Yeah. Right there on the street corner, girl walking by with a crack pipe. Like,
Hey, can I have a hit?
yeah, like literally, and like crack wasn't really my thing, but
Right.
where there's one, there's more, you know.
Whatever you wanted, I'm sure is
Right.
available.
Yeah. Well, and then I got to a point where finally, like, because they had me pinned as like this white or what do you call it, blue collar, because I have this nice 2020 Nissan Altima, brand new car. You know, I look like I have a lot of money,
Hmm.
especially in that area. So they're projecting that at me. So they would always come up and ask me for money all the time, try to sell me stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't want your stuff. Here's $2, you know? And like
Aw.
last time, like I gave her the money and she's trying to give me something. And I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. And then she's trying to get me to give her a ride or something. And then that's when I got in the conversation with her and I let her know, like, you know, I was in your situation at one point. Like there's
And
hope.
how did she respond to that?
She just did not know what to think.
Yeah.
She was completely blown away because and I had to prove it to her. I had to show her my scars, you know?
She didn't believe you?
No. Like, you know, like
Yeah. Because you don't look the part. I mean,
no.
you're so healthy looking and
And I never really did fit in. Like if you would have saw me back then though, you probably wouldn't recognize me. And
yeah.
like I do, I look completely different. But yeah, I mean there is hope. Like it just takes and I feel like that's what I need I'm here to do. That's part of what I'm here to do. Is show people that are still in it like come on, there's a way out this way, you know?
It's really embodying a lot of Christ consciousness.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what Christ did. He was in it.
Right. He wasn't like off in church. He was
Right.
at the bar, sitting next to the grimiest fuck up and offering them the same love he would the Pharisees and
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Jesus met the woman at the well. That was one of my dad's favorite Bible stories where he I don't even know what book it's in, but there's like a woman at this well that woman you've had five husbands, and just like complete unconditional love for her. No, no, like you're bad, you're wrong, just I see you. I see you. He couldn't say he was her, but
Right.
um, yeah, that's beautiful. It's so,
It
so
is. It's
great.
so beautiful.
Yeah. So we're gonna have some awesome conversations. I can feel it.
Me too. Yeah. This is the start of something really big.
Yeah, I agree. So you want to wrap it up for today?
Yeah, we can
Do we
do
have,
that.
I mean, I can keep talking. I don't really have any time restrictions right now, but 5:29 it seems like a pretty good ending point.
Yeah. I think you're right. Maybe we can do again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will send you the recording
Okay. Awesome.
and tune in and watch us and listen and join in. Hopefully we'll get it up and running so we can respond to interactions at some point. But this is recorded, so man, girl, love you so much.
Love you too.
So glad we're doing this.
Me too.
All right, see ya.
See ya.